Hi there folks, and welcome back to Getting Started with Laravel 4. Now in the previous video we added authentication to our admin panel. This lesson it's time to build our public facing site. Now this is going to be fairly simple since we only have 2 pages to build. There will be a post listing all the post titles and the authors' names, and then there will be a post detail page. Alright, let's open up our project, and the first thing we'll do is build a controller, and I'll do so by creating a new PHP class. And I'll call it Post Controller. Now, like always, I want to make sure that extends base controller. Well, since we'll have 2 pages, we'll probably also have 2 public methods. Let's build the first one, and I'll just call that getIndex. Now, we first need a variable called post, and we'll use that to store all of our posts in. Well, now, of course, we'll need the post model, but what method? Well, I would like to get the post with the users, but I want to use eager loading, so we'll just do with user, and then end off with get. So now that we have our post, all we need to do is return a view, and that will live inside the post.index file. Okay, now our second public function will be called getPost, and it will take an ID as a parameter. Well, here we want to fetch a single post, again using eager loading, so that'll be post with user find, and then we'll just pass in the ID. And again, all that's left to do is return a view, and that will be posts.post. Okay, now for both methods, we need to be sure that we pass our post variables to the view. So here it's compact posts, and down here it's compact posts. And I think that's all for our post controller. Okay, now the next step is to open up our models and define the relationships between users and posts. We'll start with the post model first. Okay, here we'll define the many-to-one relationship in a public function called user. Now when we call that method, we want to return this belongs to user. Okay, and now for the user model, here we'll create the one-to-many relationship that a user has with posts. So we'll create a public function called posts, and when we call the posts with the user, we need to return this has many posts. Cool, so now that we've set the relationship, let's open up our routes file and define some routes for these. Well, there's 2 pages, so I'll just create 2 routes. Let me just copy this line here and paste it in twice, like so. Now our first route will listen to the web root. We'll call it home. And now that will use the post controller, and more specifically the getIndex method. And I'll tell you what, I'll just copy this again. Now for a single post, we'll listen to post/id. The route will be called post, and it will use post controller getPost. And you know what? Let's also add a constraint for our ID, and that will be a regular expression again. So we'll set 1 through 9 for the first digit, and 0 through 9 for any other optional digits. And let's just remove this third route altogether. Okay, and now let's try and hit the home route and see if it actually works. Well, here we're getting an error saying that the post controller doesn't exist. And that's of course true, because it should be the posts controller. Let's fix that now. Post controller once and twice. Try again. Okay, and it looks like I made yet another error. Something wrong with the eager constraint, so that'll probably be in our model. And yes, of course, in the post model I need to return this, and I probably made the same mistake in the user model as well, and that's true. Right, now let's hope that just about does it for the errors. Well, cool, now this is an error that I was expecting because we haven't created this view file yet. Let's do it just now. Inside of our view files, we'll create a new directory, and I'll just call that posts. Now inside, I would like to create 2 new view files. The first one be called index.blade.php, and the second one should be called post.blade.php. Okay, and I'll just paste my view snippet inside of both views, like so. And the next step is to actually create our layouts file. So inside of our views folder, we'll create a new directory called layouts. And inside here, we'll create our new layout file called default.blade.php. Okay, now for this layout, I'm just going to borrow some of our admin layout code. So we'll just open that up, admin.blade.php, copy all this, and paste it in our default.blade.php like so. We'll change the title just a bit, and also we'll bring in another CSS file. Now again, this is in the source code, but you can also find it on GitHub at this URL here. And again, that URL will be available in the course notes. Again, just click the roll button and then copy all of this CSS. And then inside of your public CSS folder, let's just open that up, public CSS. I'll create a new file called style.css. And in here, I'll just paste all that raw code. Okay, back to our layout file. Okay, now of course we need to change our blog title here. And you know what, we'll also set a slogan here. So by Joost van Veen. Cool, now let's keep the main tag and yield our content there. And maybe what we could do here is add a link to our admin panel. So that will be a link to route. And let's see, the name of that route is admin.post.index. And the text for this link will be admin. Okay, well now that already looks more like it. Let's finish up our index view. Okay, well we should have access to a bunch of posts. So we'll do a for each loop for each post as posts. And then let's just finish out that loop. Now inside I'd like to display an article and an H2 heading. Now the H2 will actually contain a link to a route. Now the route name will be post because this link will link to a single post. Now for the text we'll set the post title and then we'll just pass an array of attributes, and all we need to do here is pass in the post ID because we need that for our post route. So now let's display when it was written and by whom. So first we'll do a p tag with the class of created at. Then maybe a little label. And then it's time to display the date. So here we'll just do date and set the date formatting. And now what kind of timestamp can we pass to this date function? Well, we have the post created at timestamp available. And let's just run that through string to time. Cool. And now let's display the author. So by, and then we need to do post user to access the data for the user that goes with this post. And what we'll want to display is the user name. Now let's see how we're getting on so far. We're looking quite good actually. Okay, so now maybe just display the first 100 characters for the post body. Right, let's back to the view file and create another p tag. Let's open up our braces. Okay, now of course we want to use the post body for that. Now let's run it through Laravel's string limit function. Okay, let's specify the number of characters, maybe 200, and the phrase to put behind it, maybe 3 dots. Or maybe delete these last parameters altogether so it'll fall back to its default, saying 100 characters and 3 dots at the end. Okay, now all we need is a read more tag, so we'll need a paragraph tag and copy this link to route, paste it in like so. Maybe change the text just a little and well, I think that should do. So now let's check this in the browser one more time. Okay, so here's our excerpt, here's our read more link, and here's our title link. And when I click that, I'm actually directed to a single post. All we need to do is define the view. Okay, let's do that now. Here I'll just open up post.blade.php. Now we need an h1 tag with the post title. And remember, the post variable should be available in our view. Then here I'd like to show the timestamp and author again. So let's just copy that from our index view and paste it in like so. Here we can just remove the string limit from the body and show it all together. And maybe at the bottom we'd like to show a p tag with a link to the home route. And let's have that say back. And actually I think that's all there is to it. Let's see how this behaves. Well, here's our blog post and here's our back button. And when we try to read another article, well, that works as well. Just have a look at the footer here and see if our admin link works. And sure enough, that does. Well, I think that's it for our little application. And I really do hope you enjoyed coding along. Now again, if you're having trouble getting your code to work, please make sure to compare it to the source code, which is over on GitHub /JoostVanVeen/getting started with Laravel 4. And of course, this link is in the lesson notes as well. Okay, so we finished building our blog with Laravel. Join me in the next and final lesson for some concluding comments. I'll see you there.